This event is brought to you by World Pro Racing, the Malta Motorsport Federation, Game Breaker Malta, GMR Entertainment, WJ England and Son, Melita, Media Looks, Restream.io, Gaming Malta, VisitMalta.com, and TVM Sport.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real. Through the fast-flowing sections of road, once more we head ourselves to Spa-Francorchamps. Once more we find ourselves with fantastic racing action. Once more we find ourselves here for a casual race tonight, here on Motorsport TV and TVM Sport, as well as all across the World Pro Racing YouTube, Facebook Live and Twitch. I'm Jake Sperry, Nicholas Hillebrand is alongside me, Justin and Nathan Mifsud on the cameras for this one today. The Chief Race Director, as part of the Malta Motorsport Federation, Adrian Fagaio, Chief Steward George Muscat joins us today. It's the second race out of 5. It's our second attempt, so to speak, as we move over towards the 23rd. We've got racing tomorrow night as well, same time, same place, before we finish off our 4th and 5th races on July 1st and July 8th as well, here with a prize for every winner in this series being a set of Game Breaker Malta headphones. And on top of that as well, did we mention the giveaway? We have a giveaway, and of course that is for you, of course, who is a resident in Malta. You can find yourself with a GT Omega ART cockpit. There is a giveaway available right now. Head over to worldproracing.com and you can find yourself with a nice opportunity to pick that up. Of course, we must specify once again, is a big thing to say, Maltese residents only. We'll be moving over to practice in about 5 minutes time from where we are right now. But Nicholas, to bring you into the conversation, Spa-Francorchamps, 7 kilometers, a blisteringly paced lap with so much that can go right, so much that can go wrong over the course of truly the most unique and most all-rounded circuit in the world.
Hello there, Jake. Pleasure to be back in the Arden Forest here at World Pro Racing. Spa, as you said, an insanely quick lap. Even with the tarmac runoffs that are nowadays standard around places like Eau Rouge and Pouon, it's still a very, very difficult lap to get right, because just getting over the crest at Radion, despite having the tarmac there, you get a lot of air under that car, and still the car is very unstable coming over that crest. Just this one place, and you always have to get the entirety of the corners right, always to carry the momentum into the next set of corners. So you never really have a breather in this circuit, never really any space to make mistakes. And we saw in the last week already at our last attempt, we had so many different cars here, and I'm really excited to see how it'll balance out this time, how maybe the front engine cars have found something to do. How can they tackle the circuit better, and maybe get a one-up against the Volkswagens and Audis?
Well, that's going to be something really interesting to look at over the course of racing action that we are going to be getting to you here today, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, this is going to be very interesting to see who can put themselves up at the very, very top of the field. We had a few drivers looking to try and put themselves up with the proper pace, and they had good pace results that they saw through qualifying a good 6 days ago, but ultimately the race was unable to be finished and completed, and as such it was rescheduled over here to today, so they get to go through all of that process again. And in terms of how that will play into a factor in terms of looking at drivers who are going to be up there near the top, one of the keys is that they've had that opportunity to go out, not necessarily finish a full race distance, a full run, and get everything out of the system, but to go and do it again, the nerves will probably be a little bit less. They'll be in a position where they don't have to worry so much, maybe, Nicholas. And when they look at how this race is going to run for them, they effectively get an extra crack of the whip. If it didn't go right for them in that opening race that they were trying to do 6 days ago, they will have that chance now.
Well, of course, at the time when a race gets postponed or something, of course, it's a little bit frustrating. But at the same time, well, if you were leading the race, you're going to wish, well, if we could have just kept it going and just finished now, then I would have had this win already in the bag. But, at the same time, everyone else, or even including the winner, they're going to be thinking this was some great race practice, like you can't get better race practice than in the actual race. And then when you actually get to do it all over again, your weaknesses and your potential, weaknesses that are to come if people can improve. Because not only you have gained some experience here, but everyone else as well. So, everyone has some bit of practice running now. Everyone is experienced with other people's pace. They know, where they have to punch to, get a little bit faster. And I think that everyone here will have put some solid practice in, looked at their weaknesses compared to, obviously, the Volkswagens, which are very impressive last week. And maybe those guys will have to look out a little bit more today.
I think they may just have to. Of course, conditions are going to be the same. Tyre temperatures are going to be interesting here today, especially with the wear rates that we've got. 9 times the normal rate of wear here on Gran Turismo Sport, the real driving simulator, as drivers will be looking to get themselves ready in just a couple of moments' time to head out towards practice. And if you haven't already, if you're watching online, if you're looking every which way that you can at all of this happening right now, make sure that you like, you share, you subscribe, you tweet, you Instagram, you go to Facebook, go to wherever it is that you may be watching, wanting to share racing like this, and make sure that you tell your friends, you tell your friends' friends, you tell your parents, your grandparents, tell your sons, your grandsons, that this is racing, this is sim racing. This is the new frontier that we have in front of us. Now, Nicholas, what's going to be key here is that these drivers are going to be looking at their practice in the next few moments, and they're going to be hoping that practice is going to be all about just setting a regular pace, working out, okay, get back into the rhythm. We're doing exactly the same things again as we transfer over to pictures right now as we look at Windy, who looked like an absolute star last week. 6 days ago, I should say. Will we see the same again, or how will drivers now rise up to the plate given a second chance?
It's going to be very interesting to see. You could just now see him go up Eau Rouge and Radiant so confidently, even though the car was twitching a little bit all over the place. No hesitation from him there, as he now heads over the Camel Straight and into Le Coum. And, very on spot with the racing line. So I think, in the last 6 days, he may have looked at his car again and maybe just went, maybe I should modify the car a little bit, just get a bit more consistency into my racing line, into the car handling and everything. Because, of course, over one lap pace, you can be the fastest guy. But for the entire race, you have to make it through.
Exactly, and you can't go and run 15 laps of a race if 13 of them are here, there and everywhere over the track. It doesn't matter how quick you are when it comes to one lap pace. It's all about stringing a race together when you go out on track and you battle, and you have so much amazing stuff that goes on. They can see Windy just passing by Bertu there in the Audi, moving on through. Audi, of course, we said 6 days ago, it was effectively the baseline for what we are expecting to see. You can't get too much more traditional, I guess, in a Group 3 sense, which these vehicles are running under GT3 regulation. That being that Audi that Audi right now that we're seeing out on track, and that Audi could be so crucial here to how this race is going to be run. Of course, if drivers are going to look at that and say, okay, that's probably middle of the road, who's going to find the right car track combination here today? Of course, they all know they're racing Spa-Francorchamps. Quite a lot of different people, Nicholas, think that they've got the car that works best around here.
Definitely, and I think this will be the really interesting thing to see today, because as we said earlier, well, actually last week already, time sure flies by sometimes, but yeah, you know, the mid-engine cars like the Audi, for example, you know, they have the supreme weight distribution for, you know, more windy corners, and at the same time we have Windy here in the VW Beetle concept car, and you know, very short wheelbase on that. Oh, look at him aggressively tackling Arouche there, just completely on the right of the curb. Very aggressive line there, and he just keeps it very stable, so Bertu really attacking there. Back to what I was saying, you know, the Beetle with a very short wheelbase for the especially shorter, well, you know, slower corners, it'll be very crucial for him to use the most of his maneuverability. And at the same time, some cars with longer wheelbases, or, you know, maybe, for example, the front engine cars, they will be absolutely, you know, reliant on putting down their weight distribution for fastest corners, for the stability that they can have just from the weight distribution of their car.
Well, you can hear just how much the tyres are being tortured going through the corners, trying to get as much as possible out of this practice lap at this point in time. It is worth reminding everybody here, ladies and gentlemen, that these vehicles will not have any changes to them. They're going to be running pretty much standard stock. And well, here's a pretty car going down into the Bruxelles corner. This is Ivan at this point in time in the Toyota going on through, and this is one of the keys actually to trying to get a category like this, because there's so many different niches in those categories that you see. Of course, you get the likes of Group 3 vehicles that are specifically made. There's Vision Gran Turismo that comes in through this system. Of course, you've got the likes of the traditional GT3 that you can find, and then you get this Toyota, which comes under what would be classified as the GT300 category in Japan, and the Super GT series. So there's so many different types of car that can be made and built to certain specification, but each to their own at the moment. As we look at Gianluca at this point in time, heading up through one corner through Radion and now onto the Kemmel Straight. What we are going to be seeing here is a lot of differences in terms of how one vehicle is going to work compared to another one, and you know, it's quite telling to see what cars are turning up time and time again and what cars aren't.
Well, of course, you know, you have the cars that are more suited to this track, but also the cars that are more suited to the driver, because, you know, everyone has different driving styles. It's also dependent on whether you're driving with a controller or with a wheel. But, you know, of course, like, there's a quite bigger mix here than, for example, in some of the PC simulations. Because, you know, on a PlayStation, you can easily get along with a PS4 controller, obviously. And it's just going to be quite interesting to see, you know, like, how people can actually use the cars that they picked for this. And, you know, like, obviously, it seems like the preference is here for, you know, a more, you know, mobile car. I'm actually not quite sure where the engine sits for the Beetle, but I would normally guess that it is a front engine car, because the rear end is really not long for this car.
Well, what I would say is that the engine sits in the car. That's the most important part. If it sat anywhere else, the car would be not in use. But something that is going to be interesting to keep in mind is the fact that Gran Turismo Sport has effectively put itself as one of the most accessible sims on the market, or games on the market, as we look at Tiku right now in the other of the Beetle Group 3 cars. But some also give it the mantra of, you know, the gateway into sim racing, gateway into racing in general online. And in terms of what this does for getting straight in, plug in and play, you know, you are going to find pretty much a whole boatload of places when you start up a game of Gran Turismo Sport and get yourself in on the action. And that's going to be key here for drivers of the future. It doesn't matter how old you are when it comes to sim racing. If you have yourself a turn of pace and you're good and quick and you race within the rules, you're right up there. You're at the very, very best. And that's what we've seen from Gran Turismo Sport, is the first real foray of turning away slightly from a game and looking more at the competitive side of racing.
And with, stuff like the World Tour and all that, you see the competitive side so clearly. Before, of course, we also had, the GT Academy program, which turned out to be such an interesting story to follow. And, even in nowadays motorsport, we still have these drivers around, and I would dare say, doing quite well, So it really put sim racing into the spotlight back then, and of course Gran Turismo especially, when they went with this very, very big published approach, of getting a sim driver or someone, who just plays at the PlayStation, and gets him in a real car. And they actually, went on to win something as well, and it was just a really interesting, just program and, yeah, just interesting journey to follow.
And of course, sim racing history has been very, very storied. There's been so much of it that has gone on. Of course, there is the fact of the matter that the likes of, Intel have been involved back in the early 2010s. That GT Driver Search was very ahead of its time in terms of what it was able to do to revolutionize the community and bring forward racing, and just how important this sort of racing tends to be. But now we're starting to see here a new kick on from where we are, and I think that you can point it back to the likes of the Visa Vegas E-Race at the next stage of it's kicking on. More and more people are seeing this, legitimizing what is happening out here on these virtual tracks, these virtual drivers, making sure that they're getting through race upon race upon race and really honing their skills. And in terms of getting the core concepts down, in terms of racing ability, testing time is certainly, Nicholas, very, very limited. So that's why we're seeing more and more people turn to the video game and saying, well, if they can get it to within 99% of what we see out there in reality, then we can come into a game like this, we can have a look at what is so important about racing and hitting our marks and learning the track and understanding every little nuance of what this place has, and then go out and implement it when it comes to their careers.
And that's just the positive thing about this. In a real car, you have a test day that costs quite easily, over 40,000, 50,000 euros. And, with stuff like this, you can just, start up your console, start up your PC, start up your wheel or, controller, whatever you have laying ready, and you can just pull a couple laps and, it doesn't really matter what time or when, like even on some stuff, it's like semi-portable. Like I've seen people who actually play simulators on laptops as well. And I've seen actually a couple of my friends did this back in the day when they had kart slalom events. They had a PlayStation 4, and on the way to the event, they had like a little TV in the middle between their parents' front seats, and actually played Gran Turismo while on the way to the event or on the way back. So you can just be completely portable everywhere, and at any time. So that is one of the huge advantages here. But at the same time, of course, when it comes to really competitive stuff here, the best of the best will be practicing normally, day and night for these things. So it's really just a thing of, either you have a lot of natural talent, or you are willing to walk that extra mile to just put in so much more practice than everyone else.
And what's key as well is that sim racing is now granting opportunities into the racing sphere, and that is what is starting to come out of all of these great competitions that are coming up. You can look at the likes of, say, how so many things have gone on. Kevin Siggy, for example, winning the Group G1 last year, getting himself an opportunity driving GT4. We've seen things like, say, in the past, the driving series that we've seen on Gran Turismo, that academy, that actually got them an opportunity and entry into a 24-hour event, and that would have been a scary place to go out there and start and to win events like this. And we've seen so many times, even those drivers who haven't necessarily picked up those runs, they've picked up opportunities to be engineers and mechanics. We've seen so many people data analysts and all of the rest of it that comes along with building a car up and understanding how everything works. It's so vast, and there are so many opportunities that come from these sorts of areas, these sorts of games or simulators that you see out on the circuit, and you can see pretty much time and time again, if you don't even need to look very much hard for it, to see just some amazing racing time and time again. So what we could really say here, Nicholas, is that, you know, sim racing is now changing the game. It's now pushing the needle to the point where you can talk about Igor Fraga and the fact that Igor Fraga now has an FIA F3 drive here for this year and is someone who is expected to be running up through the categories to be in Formula One in a couple of years' time.
Well, you know, it would be absolutely one of these fairy tales that actually comes through. Igor Fraga, obviously one of the best examples of, you know, from virtual to real, because, you know, I don't think anyone really expected him to perform really, really well. But then he came into, I think it was the Toyota series, wasn't it?
Yes.
Down in New Zealand, and, you know, he just came in there and, you know, started with consistent performances and up to the point where he really started, you know, just absolutely impressing everyone. And you know, with Formula 3 this year, it would be absolutely fantastic to see him rise up even further. And, you know, naturally, it would be something insanely cool to see him actually in F1 in a couple of years. And I think, you know, if he keeps up with these performances that he had, you know, keep up with his driving style, which overall just looked, you know, just very unspectacular but very clean, where his pace comes from. It's just very, very interesting to see, like, how sim drivers sometimes, you know, just can translate their skills into the real car like it's, you know, sort of nothing.
Exactly, and it's worth remembering that Igor Fraga actually won the Toyota 86 series in the back end of last year. He managed to beat out Liam Lawson, who is someone who is expected to be up there near the top, and he also has a Formula 3 drive for this one. We are only a couple of minutes away, though, from heading towards qualifying, and just how important that qualifying effort is going to be. Drivers getting themselves ready, trying to work out their strategies, getting themselves some pit stop practice, or even just running themselves a stint, getting themselves back into the pits and out and away again, that we have seen from a handful of drivers so far in this one. But who is going to put themselves at the top in qualifying? And of course, with a 15-minute qualifying available to them, they have themselves pretty much a handful of laps to get things done. And what you could say is that if they wanted it to, on the soft tyre, they've got themselves an entire stint, Nicholas, to get qualifying done. That's going to be happening in about a minute from now. So what we'll be seeing here from qualifying is drivers looking to really ramp up the pace.
It's going to be quite interesting to see how they actually approach it, because you can try to go for, you know, multiple laps on the same tire, you know. Sometimes it's actually in a bit of a, you know, more advantageous spot to use your tires a little bit more than just one lap. But, you know, we have this tire here, you know, ×9, so I think it might just, you know, turn into, you know, the situation that you have, you know, you have a quite long lap here, so you're probably not going to want to waste it, you know, with your time, just having 15 minutes and the lap being over 2 minutes long. You're probably going to just want to, like, do the out lap, get out there, you know, do the lap and try to get do the best you can. Just, you know, just go for one lap shootouts. That would be my idea, you know, for the qualifying strategy for the guys. But then again, these are, you know, of course, also different strategies here. We don't know how much the individual cars are actually affected by the tire wear, so it'll be quite interesting to see.
It certainly will, as we are moving over to qualifying right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll get you pictures as and when they are available. And it is worth noting that these casual races, they do actually serve some point of a purpose. And that purpose, Nicholas, as drivers will be looking to get themselves out right now onto circuit as they are. Here, as you can see on screen, heading up through to Eau Rouge and Raidillon, it is the fact that this is all about building up towards an event. These casual races are the form guide. These casual races pretty much tell you, the audience at home, be it in Malta, be it around the world, that these are the drivers in Malta to keep an eye out on for the foreseeable future. Once all of these events have happened, next year, 2021, there'll be a national championship here on Gran Turismo Sport, and the winner of said national championship will find themselves at the Asian Games, or sorry, the FIA Nations Cup, or the event that will be going on at the FIA Motorsports Games, I should say, in 2021. The Motorsport Games will be so crucial for everybody to try and get themselves in. There's only one representative, and of course that representative has to find victories. The only way they are going to be able to do that right now, though, Nicholas, is to say, I am a form setter, and I will try my level best when it comes to this track here today to showcase that I am someone to keep in mind.
Most definitely. I think everyone is very keen on, establishing as the second winner of these casual races, just alongside Daniel J. Vella as Kyokodo, who was the first winner, with a very dominant and very calm drive. If I remember correctly, he also went into this race with a strategy of, doing a two-stop race with soft tire, soft tire, soft tire. So, it's really like these different strategies that come into play again, because the cars just handle differently. You don't know how exactly the people will be able to play out their strengths, how consistently as well. And of course, refueling is also another factor. Do you want a heavy car and just skip the refueling for your pit stop? Or, do you want a lighter car, a more agile car? And, the less mass you have to move around, of course, it's a little bit less load on your tires as well. And now we're on board with Windy Boy.
Absolutely we are, and this is for a lap around the track. There's the Lassource hairpin, nice and aggressive. You can see that fantastic futuristic bar there, just all graphic, you could say, in terms of how it would be in the real world. It would be a case of a nice electronically made gauge go up through 240 Ks before hitting 250 here at the top end of pace here. Sixth gear, looking at this one, 260, trying to find a little bit more, ever so slightly. We'll get the fringes of draft in front from that Toyota Supra in front there, being driven by Ivan, heading through the left and the right, and now this right here coming up of Malmedy down towards the Bruxelles corner, formerly known as Ravage. A lot of corners have got revisions around this place. Down the hill, always tough to try and get the car turned in, and putting the power down as early as possible is key, because understeer becomes a very vital factor. There was the left of Jackie Ick's corner, the former corner that did not have a name. It's had many names, and now the double apex left, which has one colloquial name. This is the Pujon section, and this is the middle part of the circuit where that medium speed downforce really comes into play. On the brakes, down to third gear through Fania, and now through the right, through the left, and heading over to the former Stavolo corner. This is Campus, and that Campus there on the right hand side, so much automotive technology goes through that centre, and is really one of the leading lights of Belgium's work, as you've seen teams such as the WRT team really make strides in a GT3 circle, coming out with a lot of help from that area. Now moving over towards Blanchemont corner coming up, it'll be this next left-hander. Luciano Berti had a massive accident on the right-hand side in 2001, but through the left it's all nice and calm for Windy here, using all of the draft and closing right up to the back of Ivan under brakes, and that's where the advantage has been made throughout the entirety of the lap. Under brakes, heading over the line. This has been a lap of the track. You can see the big difference in time, 1.3 seconds the margin as Windy crosses the line to go provisional pole position.
Very impressive lap indeed from him. One thing that you could really nicely see from this onboard, through the longer corners, through these, more flowing long sections where you have to really carry a lot of speed through with not too many direction changes on a short notice, Ivan was able to pull a bit of a gap again and again, but then as soon as Windy was in the slipstream for him, I don't think Ivan actually expected him to try and go alongside there, but yeah, very impressive to see here. Just naturally, I think the Toyota has a little bit of an edge on, the high-speed corners and the top speed in general. But as Windy was able to keep up with him through the entirety of the lap, just staying right on his rear bumper, right on the rear diffuser there, he could get some slipstream out of the longer corners, and down the straights. But the very striking thing, what really brought out these 1.3 seconds, I think, was really the braking zones and how tight Windy could just take the smaller corners here. especially as we saw in the chicane at the very end of the lap. You know, he really went up on the sausage curve on the inside there, you know, just not even able to lose any momentum there. And you could really see the gap come down to Ivan there, just as he now slightly overshoots the way into pit buff.
This is very clearly going to be a lap that Ivan has backed out of it very much early on in the qualifying lap after going side by side. This is Simiana in third position right now, currently classified as 1.4 seconds here off of pole position, which is a 2:16.5 at this point in time, set by Windy at the front of the field. So Simiana in the Audi will make it 3 different manufacturers in the top 3, heading through the Blanchimont corner. Couldn't get it nice and turned in early. You've got to be early with the way that the cars will want to push through that Blanchimont corner and run out wide. You have to turn a lot earlier than you think you do, and immediately down into the pits for a fresh set of boots and back out again, hopefully. This is Alinu in 4th position, also running in an Audi, also diving down onto the lane as well. And we're seeing here all of the front 6 at the moment, with the exception of one being Bertu, have all come down in to get some tyres. This is Tiku at this point in time in the second of the VWs, getting the tyres on and getting the tyres back out again. They have unlimited sets for qualifying, and technically, if they really wanted to, Nicholas, they could pit 14 times during the race.
Of course, you would lose a little bit much time there, but, you know, anything is possible strategy-wise, and I would argue, you know, sometimes maybe if you had a very bad start or for something like a start crash or something, you know, something that people always look out for is the fastest lap of the race. So, you know, I've seen it before in races that people just, you know, do a lap, every couple of laps they come in, get new tires and just push for the fastest lap of the race. We've even seen that in F1 before, so that is still a valid strategy to go for.
Certainly is, and we've seen drivers try to be aggressive when it comes to tyre choice. We've seen drivers try and be aggressive in terms of making overtakes, but here in qualifying, it is very much plain sailing at this point in time. One of the things about this Spa track is that it is incredibly long, and this is what we're seeing. It's a 2:15 at the moment for, sorry, a 2:16 at the moment for the quickest time at this moment. But what is key to the way that these drivers will be pushing over their laps, getting everything sorted, is that if they want to go for a second lap, they can. The big issue that they've got in terms of going for those laps, coming back in, getting tyres going back out again, is actually how much time it takes to go around this place. And if you're losing 5 minutes to go out lap, quick lap, in lap, you've only really got 3 laps to really mastermind and piece together one fantastic revolution of this circuit.
And the difficult thing is you have to piece it together over the entirety of the 7 kilometers. And I dare say if this was a flat circuit, you know, it wouldn't be that difficult, but you have so much uphill, downhill, on camber, off camber. You really, well, I would argue that there's only 1 or 2 tracks where it's more difficult to get a perfect lap together. And one of those tracks would be the Nordschleife, where it's absolutely impossible to get the perfect lap together. So, yeah, it's a really challenging circuit here. You have to, you know, always decide just on the fly, you know, take more curb, take less curb, don't take curb at all, maybe. And, you know, to just always carry most speed possible through, or, you know, sometimes have the decision of not taking as much speed after all, to maybe just get a bit better run or turn in for the next corner, because it's just such a nice flowing mix between fast corners, slow corners, and, you know, all the elevation in the world. It's really a unique circuit.
Absolutely. We were just having a look there, going on to start a flying lap from Team Good at this point in time, so we'll be looking to try and improve. This is Windy out on screen that you can see heading down the hill out of Malmedy into the Bruxelles corner here, which is so tough to get right. You're waiting, and finally you can put the power down and start to go and be aggressive around this place. And this is what we've been seeing time in, time out. Drivers who have been looking to try and piece that lap together. It was a key. It was over a second in qualifying for one Mr. Daniel Vella as Kyokudo 1 week or almost 2 weeks ago now to this point, 13 days back. Windy's in the same position here that we are seeing, 1.3 seconds clear of the field. Ivan there in second. You got Simiana there in third, and of course Zelinu in fourth place. But of course that race that we did see earlier on, just 2 weeks ago almost to this point, had strategy available to it, but I'm wondering about these fuel tanks and how much they can actually run on the fuel, because to me it seems like those tanks can't go very long. They're going maybe 5 laps maximum in terms of a stint, and it's almost the Le Mans philosophy that you'll be seeing here from certain drivers, in the fact that they know that they pretty much have to split this race up into stints and trying to get themselves going with as much as they can to make sure they can go as far as they can.
Yeah, it could be quite interesting to see, because we have these very, very long straights here.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
That is a 16.2. Suddenly improved 17.1 behind there by Simiana, going into second place. Ivan remains third on a 17.3. These times coming in on the board, but that was an improvement of 0.3 of a second. Everyone else started to find some times. Zelinu moving up into third place now on the timing board, and that was very crucial. All of a sudden, gap down to 0.8, but again, it's 0.8, and any car that's out there right now on track has this lap and maybe one more, and now you get to the law of diminishing return.
Yeah, it will be quite interesting. The fastest lap we had so far, I think, was from Daniel Vella with a 2:15 in the first race. But, you know, it's not just, you know, they are randomly a second slower or, you know, a fraction of a second slower, but it's also, you know, the grip conditions here, because it's not just, you know, the track is the same every single time. The track temperature and the ambient temperature change a little bit, of course, as well. And of course, the on-track grip. So it could be that a little bit less grip is there today, but we still have a quite close, you know, field together. And I think that is Joluka, who just went also into the 2:16s with a 7.99 into P2. Very, very nice there. And, you know, quite a significant improvement from him. And he's going to be very happy with that if that turns out to be his starting position.
Exactly, that's going to be key as we see drivers making their way towards their penultimate or final laps out on circuit. Just half a second back at the moment is Joluka, but of course there is that one key issue with trying to get themselves to drive around this place, and that is the fact that they're going to be on a rolling start here today, and there will be about a roughly 1.5 second gap between drivers as they look to get going. So immediately the car that's there who's fastest has a 1.5 seconds to play with at the front. If they make mistakes, they lose that 1.5 seconds. If they play nice and just drive it within the lines, they have that ability to break away quite quickly. Windy will not go any quicker and will not have any more laps. There off went Tiku right in front of Joluka, and just enough to get around there, but that will be a huge scare and a slide heading through the second part of Fania. This lap could very easily be slower.
Very good reactions there from Joluka. A little bit of an unsafe release, but I think he just, you know, blatantly couldn't see him coming on after he had that off coming out of Puon. But yeah, quite good reaction from him. Only 28 seconds left now, and I'm pretty sure that he's gonna want to improve just a little bit more as he now heads for Blanchimont. Very aggressive on the inside, just touches the curb there, touches the outside curb, and now comes into the braking zone for the chicane. Late on the brakes. Does he take as much curb as Windy? Yes, he does, but it doesn't work out for him. Very bad. Just very unlucky mistake at the very end of the lap, and that is the thing that I mentioned. It's so difficult to get the entire lap together perfectly.
And there's a 1 second slowdown for Simiana, of course, has just come out of the pits. A lot of the drivers have come out of the pits. One driver who didn't was the Team Good car there in what is going to be 7th place at the moment, trying to get things going, and is going to come up on drivers here with the timer expired here in qualifying. Drivers will be looking to try and get their lap in, but it looks like most drivers, if not all of them, have backed off of it here in the final stages. Team Good goes straight on and hopes, oh, I want to race the old layout with the Master King and all the rest of it. Nope, not going to have that chance, even though that lap was as long as Le Mans as drivers went on through. So it's pretty much signed and sealed and in the book that Windy's got pole position, as Windy did 6 days ago, and that was crucial in terms of trying to pick this second casual race up. It was all about how could you find yourself with the best possible result. Windy has got that by half a second here over Joluka in second and Simiana in third position overall. And this is going to be a very interesting battle here at the front of the field. 15 laps. Tyre strategy is going to be very important. We're going to be seeing a lot of drivers come in and around the same time. So question becomes, has Windy got what it takes to put the victory in the back pocket?
Yeah, I think it's also going to be a quite interesting question. I feel the VW, as I said earlier, is not the fastest car on the straights. So the big question will be if Joluka in the Audi, which I think has a little bit more power, if he will just go straight for the pass, or maybe if he just tries to stay in the slipstream, just as Windy did on his first qualifying lap, and just try to save a little bit of fuel, maybe run run a little bit longer and try to go for just a longer run, try to get fresher tires at the very end of the race.
Well, we'll see how that one all plays out. The last of the drivers all come down in and get themselves stopped. If they were on a lap, then their lap will have only 25 seconds to get any improvements, and we'll be seeing there at the bottom left of the screen if anybody does find an improvement on their time, which at the moment they have not, and there's only one driver on the mini-map coming over the line and has not improved in terms of time out on circuit. So with that all in mind, we'll be heading over to racing action very, very shortly, as qualifying has ended. Windy on the pole from Joluka, then it's Simiana there in third position. So we look over to the race, and you're going to be seeing these drivers up onto the grid in just a moment's time here on Gran Turismo Sport. They can see lights flashing there from the driver there at the front. Windy on pole, Joluka second, Simiana in third, Ivan fourth, and then you got Bertu, Team Good, Tiku, and in eighth place as well. You can see there at the back we have lost one driver here in terms of getting themselves ready to race. 15 laps they have available to them, and they've got this very, very short formation lap. Get everything all worked out and sorted through the final chicane. Of course, this is all automated the way that they go around this section. 3, 2, 1, and now they get their chance to go as this second community race, this casual race, gets itself underway. All clean at the moment as they head on through all 8 drivers, from the Beetle starting at the front to the Porsche starting at the back, as they make their way through immediately, looking at drivers who are going to be closest to that 4th and 5th battle right now, as Bertu and Ivan start to close themselves up. But a nice clean start, as per usual, that we see in this sort of series, and the gaps already starting to form. That's half a second in the opening 2 corners already for Windy.
And that's always going to be the thing, as a driver starting in first, you have nothing other to focus on than your own racing line. And as Ivan gets a slowdown penalty, as well as Bertu, so both of them a little bit too aggressive there on the track limits, just coming up Radio. And they're both going to be trying to get rid of those as quickly as possible, because when you don't get rid of them in time for the race end, it can be quite infuriating, as we saw in the first race, I think, where the also 3rd to 5th positions were just all 3 wide alongside, and one of these slowdown penalties actually decided over the final position outcome. But Bertu right on the tail of Ivan here with a 0.7 second penalty, so already got 3/10 down of his 1 second slowdown. As we're going on board with him, and you can see the brake lights just of the Toyota just light up for a half a second there.
Yeah. And you can see just how much Ivan's having to work. We're seeing that wheel work from Bertu right now. And what's key about these penalties is that they get served through clean driving. So they've got to make sure they're driving within the lines. They're not cutting the corners at all, because those penalties do mean something come the end here of this race, as they all make their way through on the tyres that they qualified with. Essentially, in terms of the way that they're running. There's a 9/10 and a 4/10 penalty for TQ and Team Good, respectively, as they're having their battle for 6th and 7th place at the moment in this field as they head to the famous Blanchimont corner. There's your race leader right now, Windy, currently 3 seconds down the road from Gianluca in 2nd position right now, and they can see the margin, the 666 car. Well, at the moment, it's a case of maybe Gianluca looking behind, because there's the other Audi there, 2 of them on the podium right now. Simiana within 1.2 seconds, and 1 second, you would say, is striking window.
And the Audi seems to be a quite strong car here, and we see, you know, the car's a little bit ghosting, like from time to time in the braking zones. That is also a sign that your penalty time is going down just bit by bit, and of course that's going to be the aim of every single driver here who currently has one of these slowdown penalties. And now we see, oh, side by side, looking just on the outside, very, very brave there from Tiku, just as he tries to do a bit of an alternating line there, and he's side by side now down the Camel straight, and he has the overdrive actually. He's overlapping already, and now on the outside of him. Can he get the braking right? No, Team Good Racing wants to peak, but he just quite can't. The brakes of that Beetle are really good, and a bit of a power slide there coming through the middle of the Coombe.
Hoping for a bit of grip there coming through that section of road, and the positions change. So TQ ahead of Team Good, and the penalty is served for Team Good at the moment. It's a 0.0 at the moment for TQ at the moment in time. So we'll be looking to try and push on forward up into 6th place here out of 8, and we'll be looking to move forward. This is Ivan in 4th position, still has half a second go and serve, but has the entirety of the race to do so right now. And what we did see earlier on in the opening race of this of these 5 casual races that we've got, ladies and gentlemen, was that those penalties can take a whole heap of time to go out there and serve. So we'll see how that one all plays in. This is Simiana chasing down Gianluca, but now Ivan right now is trying to stay within a range of that, currently 2 seconds adrift at this point in time, and being worried about, of course, Bertie behind was never going to be the ideal for Ivan at this stage. Now you look at laps 2s, 3s, 4s, making sure that the tyres still work, are still in that range. That's going to be the key to how you pick up a race here, as TQ's still holding that gap to Team Good just behind. Different types of vehicles. It's been a case of 2 types near the front, and it's been Audis versus Beetles at this stage, and at the moment it is the Beetle who is on top here in both battles that they've been having.
And just in the middle of these 2 battles that we are seeing, we have the Toyota of Ivan, and you can really see him pushing through the entirety of the way. 0.3 seconds only left of his slowdown penalty, but also that gap is just growing and growing as we see Simiana just right on the tail of Gianluca going through Radio, and both of them quite nervous actually in the middle of the corner. But you know, we have Simiana now right in the slipstream. Is he close enough? No, not quite. I think he might have just bounced off the rev limiter there while he was trying to shift up, because he out of Radio he seemed to have quite a lot more drive. And now, look at these violent steering inputs. He's really trying to get the car over to the left side of the circuit as much as possible for this last right-hander, and gains quite a lot of time there. But what will the tyres say about that in the long run?
Well, it's all about strategy. We saw drivers come in lap 4, lap 5 in the first race, and we could see something very similar here in this battle for 2nd and 3rd. Gianluca will have to defend hard here in terms of this, and just taking some slightly different lines over the straight to try and slightly break the toe. A little bit of a double take there heading through Pujon, and this could be the chance. What a run off of the exit right now. Gianluca very narrow here. That allows Simiana down to the inside. It wasn't defended by Gianluca, who's looking to try and get this one a little bit later on. So Simiana up into 2nd position, but at what cost? Because the gap is already up to nearly 7 seconds, if not 7 seconds already, to Windy at the front of this field. It has been a walk away in the opening few laps, and all of that battling, all of that holding each other up, making mistakes, forcing errors out of each other, is just allowing Ivan back in for a shot of a podium.
Yeah, and he's going to be very happy about this, though I'm just seeing the last lap, or, you know, the current fastest lap of Windy, 2:17, and Simiana, if I saw correctly earlier, was at 2:16. So, oh, actually, no, 2:17.6, so, you know, but still, I would say that's within reachable range. And I think it's also... Oh, that's a very big tank slapper there. Very well caught there on the exit of the chicane. But I think it's going to be very dependent here, as we see that very nicely again. Oh.
That was a tank that had a slap next to it, and very easily that could have gone into either wall into a spin, well held by Simiana to make sure that the car was pointing in the straight and narrow. There you can see Gianluca in third position, and there behind is Ivan, just 0.4 of a second heading up the hill, and this is where the Toyota starts to really find its groove compared to the Audi. Round the outside, not much you can do about this one. That Supra absolutely moved, and Ivan up onto the podium in third place. These corners, though, is where the Audi's going to come into play. But Gianluca clearly struggling here when it comes to lap 4 on the tyres, using up the tyre life more than the competitors.
And that was a really clean move there from Ivan. Just have a look at that speed from the Supra, FT1 VGT, you know, whatever you call it. Very, very nice machine, and that huge wing on the back, you know, not really noticeable. Oh my goodness, that is a very big mistake there. Oh.
And saves it, but side by side they remain. So at the moment, second and third at it at the moment. Get a replay for you. Simiana, huge slide, 1-2 into the side there of Ivan going on through. Fortunately, no penalties for contact between them. Simiana back into fourth. Gianluca was thinking about second, but Ivan, just for the time being, keeps himself into second place. And this fight now finds itself 12 seconds off of the race lead. So Ivan in second, Gianluca in third, and there in fourth position is Simiana. It happens just like that. Click of her fingers, and that's why the corner that formerly had no name, now known as Jackie X, is so difficult. Now look at the chase, look at how the draft is so strong right now. Look at the hole being punched by the Toyota so that the German engineered Audi can get close through the Blanchimont corner, as we see from the rear tray at this point in time, looking for the move. This is a lunge down the inside from Gianluca, trying to slow it up. Can't get it done on the inside. Contact nose to rear there from Simiana going through, but ultimately they will go on for their fifth lap.
Simiana just very hardly pushing there, but
one pitter.
Maybe a little bit too much. Oh yeah, one pitter already. Bertu up just as we go into lap 5, so at the end of lap 4 he was already coming in. And that will definitely be a different tire compound, I think. So I think the start obviously all on soft tires to try and get the most speed out of it. But if he's pitting that early, I think he will probably be pitting for another tire compound. So we now have Simiana again looking for the move on Gianluca, which he gets done very nicely. But Simiana got under pressure before, and Gianluca knows that as he brakes on the outside, and they touch again. But Gianluca makes it stick very brilliantly there, as they now head out of Lecumbe, and Simiana sliding over all 4 tires.
3 separate bits of contact between Gianluca and Simiana, and just like that, they lose 2 seconds to Ivan in that scrap alone. What I did notice from Bertu making the stop was that the soft tyre compound stayed on, and again, issues on the rears there for Simiana, pushing a bit too hard, and another half a second gets lost just like that. So we get a replay, they can see just sliding there into the corner. Very much a case of trying to feel the car around the corner, and that's not the quickest way. Sideways looks very, very pretty, Nicholas. We see it so many times. It looks very pretty, but very pretty does not always mean fast.
Most definitely, especially on the tight line as he had there. It just steals so much momentum through a corner where you have it just so crucial. And Windy's just up ahead. He's just flying away, having a nice Tuesday evening drive. I almost said Sunday evening drive, but that's still far off. But you know, he's just driving away, and the same can be said for Ivan at the moment. Meanwhile, Team Good Racing and Tiku there, like, oh, they had a little position change.
In comes your race leader then, Windy into the pits as Good and Tiku have their own fight. We're going to be seeing here a lot of drivers coming in the next few moments. There's the tyre change. Of course, this is all automatic, what they've got going on right now. Just waiting on the fuel. In comes second, in comes third, in comes fourth. All coming in, all looking to make their stops, as well as we're expecting fifth and sixth to also dive down in. Every single driver that has come down in has gone back onto the soft compound tyre. So no changes in tyre compound. They're staying with the quickest tyre possible. This is Bertu, 0.6 of a second of slowdown, and this is going to be the weight that Bertu's in, trying to get that 1 lap of advantage. There is Windy already gone and away, and was this the right call? Look at Bertu now as drivers are coming out of the pits. I put Bertu in third place, and what an undercut this is, fighting for second, pitting that lap earlier, and now all of a sudden, side by side up Rouge and Radion. Why don't we? Wide will have to go Ivan through this section. Has he got any penalty for that? But Bertu there, absolutely magnificent. 1 second penalty for Ivan to now try and serve down, but now, nose to nose, they'll go again, up the Kemmel straight, and Ivan will be looking back for the inside here on lap 6 of the event. On the brakes he goes, and he sends it in nice and deep and tries to get this one done. 2 bits of contact as they go through, but Ivan is clear, second, third and fourth, now in a train.
You really have to give that Toyota props for its straight line speed, but also to Bertie for that strategy play. Really nicely done. When you consider how far back he really was able to get a lot of speed out of there, and just really quite impressive drive from him to get it up that far. Maybe it was really the right decision. On his last lap he did a 2:13, I think, or what? Did I see that wrong? I don't think that was right, to be honest. Oh, actually it was 2:13.
Yep, that would have been the outlap, of course, coming out of the pits, so passing the start-finish line, getting up to speed and going on with the race again. That would be a 2:13, including the stop, so that would be worked. Here's Jaluka, though, trying to go down to the inside at Campus Corner. No door open there, so Jaluka will have to just play that waiting game here as we're into the second third of this Shakespearean race, some would say at this point in time, looking to try and have some brilliant battling here. It's plain sailing at the front, but this scrap second, third and fourth. Now we've got a new character into the mix, but the key here for Bertu is 1 lap older tyres. At some point Bertu's got to do a 6-lap stint, and the fuel numbers are going to be interesting because a lot of those drivers who did 5 laps on their stint, they did not have much fuel remaining in the car.
Yeah, they stood quite long for the refueling, but at the same time you have to think, you know, maybe that is also a bit of Bertu's strategy. I think he did maybe try to, you know, feel out how much he could actually save. I think, you know, he did that first, that first stop a little bit earlier on purpose. So either it's a display of, you know, just trying to go alternating to everyone else, simply because when you do your pit stops and you get caught in traffic all at the same time, it will cost you time. Maybe he was trying to get away from that, but maybe he also just has that much confidence in his fuel consumption, as we see Edwin just at the back there with the Porsche, quite a bit back at the moment.
He's 13 seconds off his nearest competitor in 7th place, but there is your race leader, Windy, 13 seconds clear at the front of the field in the VW Beetle Group 3 car, looking to make some progress here with a 2:11 on the outlap. So that one working nicely, going on through, coming out of the pits with a good set of speed to move on forward. Ivan in second, Bertu currently in 3rd position right now. And there you can see side by side to Buhon Corner, Jaluka down the inside. That's a what I would call a not grade 1 place to make an overtake. That was a little bit out of the book. You don't see too many moves at that corner, a double apex left. Normally you need to capitalize on a mistake to make that happen. Jaluka, fantastic in finding an unorthodox place to make the move.
Well, definitely a lot of courage going in there, but of course he has to think of, oh, now getting a 0.5 second slowdown. That was
wide.
Probably for the exit there.
Absolutely. Sorry to cut you thunder like that. Absolutely straight wide coming out of that Fania chicane. It was followed by Bertu as well in the same scenario. And that's what you see, Nicholas, is the case of drivers who are effectively trying to chase down the driver in front, often almost fall into that carbon copy mold of doing exactly the same mistake.
Yeah, it's just quite interesting to see here because Gianluca, of course, he has to do a little bit more risky moves here because he really wants to catch up to Ivan. And I think the same can be said for Simiana at the back there, as he's now in the background slowly creeping up on Bertu. But yeah, Simiana really promising a couple laps ago, but then, it came with mistake after mistake after mistake. So he's really going to be looking to put some stunner laps in here to try and get some time back and to try and catch those second and third runners again.
I think the tyres have hit the cliff for Bertu. He's lost 2 seconds in half a lap. And here, look, Simiana, flash the light. Tried to say, come on, let me go. I'm going to get down the inside. The Audis are third, fourth, fifth, and sixth right now. And Simiana looking on the brakes on the inside. Can't quite get it past Bertu right now. Tags that inside cone, moving on forward. And now really trying to open up the exits of these corners, trying to get aggressive. Bertu, a little wiggle coming off the exit. The rear tyres will be the ones that will be hurting the most around this place, mainly because there aren't so many tight hairpins to go on through. It's the rears that will struggle, and now you're starting to see here how much pressure Simiana's putting in. Another little bit of a wiggle going through, but Simiana again with the tyres, and round Simiana goes. Just like that, and it was the same issue that we saw at the back end of the first stint. That corner, the balance not quite right, and round Simiana goes.
Just really, really unfortunate for him here. He just keeps making that mistake there. I think his car really is not all too stable there with his inputs, and that is also, sometimes that is maybe just a problem that you cannot fix. You're so desperate to catch back up, but then you make just an even bigger mistake at the same place that you have before.
And those mistakes, they compound each other. Drivers often call it the red mist, and if you find yourself with the red mist, you know that you get yourself into a very angry state when you try and drive, and mistake upon mistake starts to creep up on driver upon drivers. We look at 7th place right now in Tiku, trying to make that progress here around this place. 2:20 that last time by, currently 40 seconds off of the pace of the fastest VW at the moment here, starting lap 9 out of 15. In comes Bertu, no surprises then to come in and pit. This will have to be a 6-lap stint to finish, and this is going to be key in terms of Bertu's race. Getting back on fresh rubber and attacking in the final stages. It will be a race of defense from here, and well, it says good on the side as he's part of the Team Good team, and well, he'll be hoping that it's going to be great from here on out.
And just still standing there, and while Team Good Racing actually pulls past him there, the refueling does take some time, and I think Bertu might actually have to come in for a 3rd stop maybe, because that is quite some race distance to cover now.
Well, it's going to have to be some fuel saving. There's Gianluca, 9/10 of a second to serve of slowdown, has served only 1/10 of that so far. The driver in front of Ivan has cleared that penalty that he had earlier on, but the gap down to 1.9 seconds, hovering around 1.92 seconds at the moment as Gianluca desperately tries to chase down the Toyota there in 2nd position. Through the left there of Jackie Hickson, nice and clean going through that section, but this is a pit lap here at the end of 9, start of 10. From here, they'll have to get themselves over to the line, and this is going to be where we're seeing strategy really come into play. Who's going to put themselves in the best possible position? And I'd even go so far as to say, pitching at the back end of lap 8 there for one Mr. Bertu, that could mean here that is clearly a 3-stop strategy, splitting it up into 3 stints of 4 and a stint of 3.
Yeah, that would probably be the case, and if we're all just on strategy here, Windy Boy normally, he should be going around. Yes, he does, for his lap number 10, and yeah, now 17 seconds clear. He's really just having a calm drive there. He's really getting along well with his Beetle, and it's going to be quite interesting now to see, how much he can still pull, or, maybe if he actually gets a bit too relaxed, if he may have a problem similar to Simiana.
Gap at the front, 17 seconds now as Simiana there. Look at how much time that spin has cost Simiana in this race. That's 14 seconds just by smashing into the wall, and probably the damage as well not helping. You can see how the grille is all scuffed up there at the front, as well as the front left fender as well. That one's not had brilliant work. Jaluka has got the penalty down to 0.7 of a second. The gap 1.8 heading up the hill, but we're going to be seeing the final stop strategy, and I think pretty much everybody here today has worked out that soft tyres are the best because the fuel, they can't go any further than 5 laps.
Yeah, it'll be quite interesting here now. They're coming into Lecum, and Jaluka's still very, very clean here. We've seen this quite a lot, actually. He tried to keep a clean line, you know, without much sliding, as his rear end steps a little bit out there, but I think he's pushing very hard right now, just wanting to come to the end of the lap, and he's also quite gaining on Ivan there. You know, we see the gap gradually going down bit by bit, now under 2 seconds, just as I say that. And Ivan is going to be getting under a little bit of pressure, and I wonder if he can, well, Jaluka can actually put enough pressure on for Ivan to make a mistake, or to actually, you know, even reach Ivan.
Well, we're going to be seeing over the course of this lap, there should be a pitting lap for these drivers from first all the way down to 6th place, and the driver in 8th, of course, of Edwin in the Porsche as well. The Porsche has not been at the races so far today, but for the time being, you can see how Jaluka's trying to chase this gap down. He knows he's got to not only get by, he's either got to drive cleanly or drive by a rate of 0.7 of a second, which either way is going to be a tall order. In comes the race leader, though, to make that stop here on lap 10 out of 15 in the Beetle. There's the crew sitting, waiting, hoping to hit the marks absolutely nicely. And now this automatic pit stop will come into play. The tyres will be put on, the fuel will be registered into the vehicle, and then straight away he will go. In comes Jaluka in to make the stop. And has Ivan just gone out for another lap? No, he's coming down in. So I think Ivan, who came in behind Jaluka here, may have had a moment potentially out on track. He was 1.6 seconds back as he came down in. We'll see how this all plays out when they come out of the stop. I think it was something on entry as Windy gets himself away. So we'll see how this one all plays out. But I think Jaluka's going to jump Ivan here in the stop.
One thing that I just saw as they all came to the pits, Ivan has a quite a lot bigger number as he got into, you know, into the pit stop.
Yeah, behind
than the others, but he's just behind there. I think, you know, that he may have not been running on full power actually through that race, because, you know, he just had a lot more rest fuel just left over for that stop. So of course his refueling time will have been a little bit shorter as well.
Look at the front. Look at the front of that vehicle. The nose looks scuffed. Something's happened here, and a penalty coming out there for Jaluka means it's now 1.4 seconds. So Ivan having to work. He's going to have to put the pressure on Jaluka here. We didn't see what happened to Ivan as he went in for his pit stop. He made a mistake. That's why he was behind. He made a mistake on the entry to pits. So now Ivan's got to bring this back, but Jaluka will have 1 or 2 goals here in the final 5 laps of this race. The first goal, bring 1.4 seconds of penalty down. Second goal, keep Ivan behind.
And Ivan, of course, doesn't have to overtake him at the moment. He just has to stick with him within these 1.4 seconds, and of course try to push him so much to maybe even get another penalty, or just push him so much that penalty will go down as little as possible. But of course, at the same time, to keep up that pressure for the rest of the race is quite a big number as well, as we saw how fast and consistent Jaluka can be.
Exactly, and this is going to be key in terms of getting this race to really pay off. These limits cannot be too aggressive. You will lose so much time by just pushing wide time and time again around this place. You've got to be pretty much on the island, and if you fall off of it, well, there are sharks swimming around. The gap is 0.7, 3/4 of a second as they head towards Blanchemont corner, and this is key. The gap behind Ivan, it's got 8 seconds to Bertu at this stage, who, remember, is trying desperately to get his race back on track, but may just have to stop one more time. Slow, very slow, trying to serve the penalty as much as possible. Gianluca serves all of it down at the chicane there, the final chicane, and that means that he falls behind by 1.2 seconds. Has to chase that back down in the final 4 laps to get that back.
Was that strategically the right decision, I'm wondering? I really don't think that it was, because if he had just, lifted off a little bit more throughout the rest of the laps and just taken it easier a little bit, I think he could have stayed ahead of Ivan there. But maybe that's also, a little bit of a psycho play, because he was behind before the pit stops, and Ivan obviously did something to get those scratches on the front of that Toyota. Maybe this is another, mental play, but I'm actually not sure what to think anymore, because whenever I thought that the person had the situation fully under control, was the last time when Semiana then had his offs at former no-name corner.
Well, it happens so quickly here in sim racing. You've got to hope that mistakes are frugal when it comes to the way that this is going to go on. Here is Gianluca, though, trying to close this. It's car 0 against car 666. Through the left-hand corner, slightly wider there from Gianluca, but look at how that opening sector has worked out. This opening half a lap, the gap's come down to 4/10. Gianluca's got so much confidence in that draft in the Audi compared to the Toyota. We'll see how this one plays out as they get nice and close. This battle happening 22 seconds off of the race lead right now here for the final 2 spots on the podium. If these two come together, there'll be fireworks. Mark my bottom dollar on this one. But you can see here Gianluca just trying to pick up every corner as a chance to make a move.
That will be quite interesting here now, because of course what you have to consider, especially through these faster corners, the closer you are behind someone, slipstream is not only a positive thing, but in corners it's also very well known with dirty air. You're gonna wear your tires more, so maybe Ivan just trying to stay ahead that little bit more time, so Gianluca may stay behind just enough so Ivan can wear down his tires without even maneuvering against it. And it seems to have worked out quite well through the chicane there, because he was, Gianluca was so close, less than half a second, and now that's up to 1 second again. So Ivan's really trying to play the defense game here. And oh, sorry.
That's absolutely fine, my friend. It's all about that defense game, and Ivan is going to be caught over the course of this lap. That final chicane really worked, and part of that was down to just diving at the inside. This is windy at the front of the field, 2:16.8 that last time by. Absolutely walking away from the rest of the field. Hasn't put a foot wrong at all. No penalty to speak of. No nothing in terms of the way this has gone. But look at how Gianluca is clawing hand over fist down or up the Camel Straight. That gap of a second down to 3/10 by the time they reach Lake Coombe and Malmedy. So just like this, Gianluca with 3 laps has to pick and choose the moment, because each corner's going to be defended when he's got that opportunity. Ivan now, who's got that little bit of scuffing on the front, will be hoping that, okay, well, I've had that little hit, but hopefully there's still enough time in this race that I can hold on to that place, as Bertu, I've just seen on the timing screen, has just dropped behind Semiana, I do believe, for 4th position right now. So there's a 1.3 second slowdown penalty. That was a move done into the Lake Coombe section through Malmedy. Now, where's the mistake coming here? Through around the outside, and contact on the exit. Semiana knits ones and pearls ones down the inside.
Yeah, just a little bit too nervous there, and I think he just got put a little bit too much under pressure. Semiana instantly looking down the inside, and I think he tried to close the door just a little bit too late there. So bit of contact, and then you have this brief moment of uncertainty, which for Semiana obviously was quite enough. Just as we now see Gianluca pull side by side, and the once almighty Toyota not able to pull with the Audi there, just staying straight on the rear of him, but the Audi's just gone.
Hold your breath, because Ivan may just try and come back under brakes. Going to take a big wide line here, and Gianluca now up into 2nd place and trying to run away from the Toyota, and just like that, the gap becomes 0.8 of a second over the line, and Gianluca has done everything right then to go up into 2nd place with 2 laps to go here around this place. But The big number will be 26 seconds as Bertu will come down in for that third stop out of 3, going for a 3-stop aggressive stop that will promote Team Good up into 5th. You'll see the likes of Tiku move up into 6th position, potentially looking to make the run going through on the softs. There goes Tiku up into 6th place for the moment. Fuel will be being put in, and hopefully that Audi will be going in the next couple of moments. But what can you say about the driver in 1st place right now? Absolutely has waltzed away from the rest of the field to the tune of 26 seconds. I just saw Bertu, I believe, has gone onto the hard compound tyre.
Yeah, I don't think we can say quite a lot about him, you know. Windy just not making a mistake, just staying clean, staying in his own little, you know, comfort zone. And from start to finish, no mistakes. So really a fantastic race from him. Sadly, we didn't see him so much because of that, but nevertheless, that's going to be very much the debut that he has been hoping for, probably. And the man from Malta, as it looks, to become the 2nd person to win these casual races.
Exactly, there's the gap you can see developing, 26 seconds over Joluka. Ivan 2.3 seconds back now and look to consolidate that 3rd place, 7 seconds of a gap as the white flag lap, so to speak, the last remaining lap comes into fruition for Windy at this stage. It has been a comfortable drive at this point in time, but he's only got 7 more kilometers to get it around this place any longer. So there is Joluka in 2nd, the gap extending more and more, but it's been a case of being caught in the battles, drivers making mistakes, and how much will Ivan rue the fact that he's got damage on the front after making a mistake coming onto the pits. So Ivan right now knows what he needs to do, just consolidate that 3rd place, and surely will have a good run of things when it comes to 2021 as he heads himself towards the La Source hairpin right now out on circuit. This is Simiana in 4th place. Damage as well, spins are plenty. 1 corner has been effectively the kryptonite for Simiana at this stage, and if you can't get every corner correct around this place, then 2nd place will not be a viable option here in this reality. So many drivers have been looking to push, and now down through Bruxelles corner goes Windy at this stage, extending the gap through every single corner, and it's effortless at this stage. Every apex has been hit over the course of 15 laps. It has not necessarily needed to be an uber aggressive race. Had the gap, of course, immediately from the start, and that VW Beetle has done everything right at this stage. And surely now here for drivers who have been looking to make that push on the brakes through the right-hand, left-hand section of the Fania chicane, Campus Corner comes up next, and of course that campus has seen so much innovation and technology go through its doors, and right now we are seeing the next great step of innovation and technology when it comes to racing in this world. Windy now onto the final back straight, which has Curvapool Frere heading through right now heading towards Blanchemont Corner, which is going to be the next left right now out on circuit. Absolutely fantastic speed you can go through this section, and one final chicane remains for Windy, who through all of everybody racing incredibly hard will now see the checkered flag with a fantastic victory, dominating as always. Windy in full control, picking up the 2nd win here in the casual races. It'll be a long wait to Joluka, who's struggling here towards the end. Ivan has closed up over the course of this lap. There's been a mistake somewhere, the gap down to a 10th. Here comes Ivan, has to be aggressive around the outside to make this one happen. Has he got the nose for the inside for the next part? No, is the answer. Joluka with enough. Better with the Audi, and that is a case of a scare for 2nd, but Ivan will pick up 3rd behind. Simiana will come along with 4th place over the line, and with Edwin 1 lap down classified in the pits, having to stop 1 lap short. This will be Team Good finishing it off in 5th place. Bertu on the 3-stop will get 6th, and Tiku will come along with 7th place come the end. But confirmation of Windy's win, which was unfathomably unquestioned throughout the entirety of 15 laps, Nicholas.
Yeah, it's a very impressive drive from him. As I said, that's basically as close to a perfect race that you can get here. Just no mistakes, no questions asked, and he just pulled away. But yeah, quite surprising. Very big scare at the end for P2. Ivan with the Toyota just not willing to give up, but excellently handled from Gianluca for the defense. And have to really give it to him. Gianluca really staying calm there, staying on the inside and keeping the defense in the middle of this chicane just clean, perfectly clean, to just barely stay ahead and get the perfect run out of the last chicane. Very nice and clean fights all around the field. And yeah, this was quite good entertainment, I would say.
And of course, with the win for Windy going his way, courtesy of Game Breaker Malta, will be a fantastic set of Game Breaker headphones. So that's going to be very nice in terms of something to get going with in the meantime. And as well, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who come from Malta, who are Maltese, there is a big giveaway with World Pro Racing. You can catch that, of course, at worldproracing.com, and there is the opportunity to get your own simulator rig from GT Omega. It's their ART cockpit, and it's going to be fantastic to have a run in something like that. But it is at this point where we close proceedings here with World Pro Racing on YouTube, on Facebook Live, on Twitch, with TVM Sports and Motorsport TV, and of course in association with the likes of the Malta Motorsport Federation. This has been a great event from the chief stewards who have been on this one, the race director Adrian Fagayo, and of course George Muscat as well on this one. From behind the cameras, Justin Mifsud and Nathan Mifsud, who have been putting everything. From Nicholas Hillebrand on my left-hand side, myself, Jake Sperry. It is Windy's time to shine. 30 seconds clear of anybody else. You cannot teach that level of domination. And the best part about this is we get to do it all again tomorrow night. Tune in for the third race of the casual races that we've got going on, and we will see you very soon. This event is brought to you by World Pro Racing, the Malta Motorsport Federation, Game Breaker Malta, GMR Entertainment, WJ England and Son, Melita, Media Looks, Restream.io, Gaming Malta, VisitMalta.com, and TVM Sport.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.